Welcome again to Reviews from Purgatory with J. Matt Wygant. This time around I'm reviewing The Last Starfighter. When I was a kid I wanted to be a starfighter pilot. Impossible, yes, but that's what I wanted to be. I didn't want to be a Top Gun pilot, none of that bullshit. We grew up seeing Star Wars or like The Last Starfighter here and we wanted to be starfighter pilots. This was one of my favorite movies growing up when I was a kid. And it's still really good. You know, it's a bit cheesy at times, a little over the top, but ultimately the film just has so much heart that you forgive that. It is a lot like the original Star Wars. You have a young man who wants to get away from the life they are trapped in. They want something more. But it's not really a copy or anything like that. There's a lot different about it. There are some parallels, but you have great differences between the two. Things like the beta unit staying behind, so he's kind of in two places at once. Very different sets of characters. I suppose if you want to think of Centauri as Obi-Wan, he's a pretty crooked Obi-Wan Kenobi. And, you know, things like he actually has people he leaves behind on Earth. Well, Luke has no one left because the Empire killed his aunt and uncle. I think you see where I'm going here. Although it's the same basic idea, it's completely different in execution. Comparing the two is inevitable, but there are so many things different between them. I could keep on going, but I don't need to. So, the basic story here. Alex Rogan lives in the Starlight Starbright trailer park with his little brother Lewis and his mother. And he has a longtime girlfriend, Maggie Gordon, who lives with her grandmother and likes living there. His family manages the trailer court, so Alex often finds himself fixing something and unable to go and have any fun. He always feels trapped there. He feels like his life can't get started and he wants to escape. Now in his spare time he plays a arcade game, a space combat simulator. He's gotten really good at it over the years. So good that he breaks the record one night. And that's when a strange man in a car shows up, Centauri. Now, he listens to the man's offer, gets in the car, and ends up recruited into the military from the game. Alex doesn't really want to do this, and first tries to reject it, but there's not really a choice, because the villains know he's a starfighter pilot, even if he rejected the offer, and they'll come after him whether he's on the Earth or in a starfighter, so he might as well fight. Acting is good here. Even the child actor, Chris Herbert as Lewis Rogan, the little brother of Alex, he's still pretty good. It's not as irritating as most child actors usually are.
Where the hell's Jude?
Alex's little brother Lewis brings a lot of comedy to this movie. It's a pretty funny movie in a lot of ways. You've got some good supporting characters like Meg Wiley as Granny Gordon, Vernon Washington as Otis. And they give pretty good performances. Barbara Bassoon as Alex's mother. I really like these villains. They're good performances. Norman Snow as Zur and Dan Mason as Lord Krill. Zur is a bit theatrical, like this appearance here as a hologram taunting the Star League members. But I actually think that works. You clearly get the guy is ultra egomaniacal, so it actually fits his character to be a bit over the top like this. You have enough scenes with the villains that you get that the Kodan just kind of tolerate Zur, are using him to get at their enemy behind the barrier, behind the great frontier. Bottom line is that the villains have some depth to them. Catherine Mary Stewart as Maggie Gordon, Alex Rogan's love interest. They grew up together in the trailer park. You really feel that she doesn't want to leave. It's comfortable there. And while Alex really hates the place, she actually loves the place and couldn't see herself leaving her grandmother there alone. And I think Catherine Mary Stewart does a good job showing that. Lance Guest as Alex Rogan, the lead, I think he really pulls it off. He usually is a secondary character in things he's in, but Here he was the lead, and I think he pulled it off. He plays dual roles, because he's both Alex Rogan and the Beta unit, which looks exactly like him after it shakes his hand in the car. He does some pretty good deadpan comedy here at times. Dan O'Hurley brings a lot of life to the character of Grigg, Alex's navigator. He had to act through a thin mask here, although he still had to work his muscles really hard to get expressions through that mask, according to the commentary. It reminds us what Nick Castle is really good at. As a director, he makes great, quirky side characters, and Dan O'Hurley plays the gung-ho iguana Grigg very well here. Obviously, I saved the best for last. Robert Preston as Centauri, the alien conman. This is the last movie he did before he died. Every scene he's in, he steals. He's just so good. Even when he's being underhanded and conniving, you can't help but love the character of Centauri because of Robert Preston.
Sanjay.
Sanjay? Oni Matsuela. Frita.
Centauri, what's going on here?
He's just saying how delighted he is that you're here.
Friend.
And if there's anything he can do to make your stay more enjoyable, just give him a ring.
My stay? What are you talking about? Where are we?
Welcome to Rylos, my boy.
Rylos? Wait a minute, you mean like in the game?
Oh, he's quick. He's quick. He's very quick. He's speechless. So long, Alex.
It's been quite a few years since this movie came out, so Robert Preston isn't the only one from the cast to have died. Here's a moment of silence and some images to remember them. Craig Safan, one of the most underrated composers in Hollywood, did the music for this film. It's got a lot of brass and woodwinds in it, and it gives it a very heroic sound to it, although other tracks are more melodic, and I just love it through and through. Listen to the soundtrack if you don't see the movie. Just listen to the soundtrack at least. As you can tell, I love this film. I loved it as a kid, and I still love it. Rewatching it just reminded me how much I love this film, and the thing is, I found new things to love about it because I watched the retrospective talking about the film this many years after the fact, and listening to the commentary on the DVD. For instance, the screenwriter, Jonathan Betul, was a junior copywriter on the East Coast, and in between meetings, he would write screenplays. One day, he was reading T.H. White's Once and Future King, and he had wandered into an arcade, and he saw a kid playing a game, and he decided, what if you combined, like, the idea of the test there in Arthurian legend with a video game, that somehow it was testing the kid, and it sends out a signal across the universe. Of course, the big thing is that they had the choice of doing models or sticking with computer-generated effects. Now, most people were doing models and miniatures, and they could have done that and certainly gotten done in the 6 months they had left to get things done. They had a deadline, and they decided to stick to their guns and go with CGI effects. They stuck with digital productions, and digital productions managed to get things done in time, although they had to make some things a little low res. That's why you've got like these melted ice cream caves here. But they went ahead and did CGI. And because of that, they paved the way like Tron did. This is a pioneering film that set the stage for other CGI films that followed. I have this idea to give you added tidbits based on me having listened to the DVD commentary. Little things that might make you laugh or just kind of interesting. Make it a regular thing in my reviews. Got Mark Alamo here as the hitchhiker who becomes a Zandozan. Clearly no stranger to prosthetics, Mark Alamo would go on to play Gul Macet in Star Trek The Next Generation and Gul Dukat in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And speaking of Star Trek, Will Wheaton is one of Lewis's friends. You see him in the background, but the scenes he was actually in were cut from the movie. They were going to make a side plot involving Lewis, set it up for a sequel at some point, which is apparently still out there. It's been in development hell forever, but who knows? There might be a sequel to this movie someday involving Alex's younger brother, Lewis. And supposedly one of the Rylans, the people with male pattern baldness, is actually Heather Locklear in an uncredited extra role. Now, the scene with the star car, well, they had a Volkswagen van engine in the actual car, so it really made an unimpressive sound and didn't go very fast at all, so they really had to use movie magic and crank the camera to make it look like it was moving fast and like use practical effects to make the signs twitch and so on, creating the illusion that something with a VW van engine can possibly move fast. Dan O'Hurley, who played Grigg, actually posed in this lovely dress here to be Mrs. Grigg in the family photo. The question for this time: do you have a favorite childhood movie? And have you seen it recently? Sometimes you go back and you go, wow, how did I ever like this thing? But maybe you go back and say, yeah, this is good. So, what about you out there? It's a light movie. It's comedic at times. I like that about it. For me, it's an 8. I give it an 8. A lot of people would give it less than that. Would let the corny parts tear it down. Aw, is that cat swatting at the screen? But it has so much heart that it's more than that. It's a space opera with a strong story and good acting, superb acting from Robert Preston especially. I think you should check it out, and until next time, this has been J. Matt Wigand with Reviews from Purgatory.
Wait, when did the hangar go up?
I told you! When's your attack?
And where were the Starfighter?
In the hangar!
You mean they're dead?
Death is a primitive concept. I prefer to think of them as battling evil in another dimension.
In another dimension? How many are left?
Including yourself?
Yeah!
1!